Ladies and gentlemen, Paul Leslie presents. And now your host, Paul Leslie.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome our special guest, Billy Vera. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, great to be here, Paul. Thanks for having me.
How do you define Billy Vera?
Oh, boy, never been asked that question before. Geez, just a guy that likes music and tries to make a living at it, I guess.
Take us back a little bit. What was life like growing up?
Well, I grew up just outside of New York City in the suburbs in White Plains, New York. And my parents were in show business. My dad was an announcer on NBC. My mom was a singer, background singer on the Perry Como show. So I had show business, professionalism around me all the time. And then discovered rock and roll at a very young age, 11 or 12 years old, and fell in love with that music.
What music did you especially enjoy growing up?
Well, it was pretty broad, my taste, because my mom brought home some pretty good stuff. She had the early Sinatra albums, Songs for Swingin' Lovers and Songs for Young Lovers, and she brought home a Duke Ellington album, and I listened to some of her stuff. And then I listened to the stuff of my generation as well. I liked Fats Domino and Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers, and all that early rock and roll stuff. Between the stuff my mom had and the rock and roll of my 11, 12-year-old generation, that was pretty influential stuff.
Tell us about the first time you ever wrote a song.
Well, I guess it was, my mom had a piano in the living room, and I had a guitar and some drums. I was banging away on the piano and came up with a little something that, it was sort of like the doo-wop stuff, like the Frankie Lyman stuff. My parents were nice enough to let me go in and do a demonstration record of it, because with my mom's voice teacher, and nothing happened with it. It was just probably a little not quite right yet. But the first song I ever took to a publisher, now that was a different story. We had made my little band and I had made a record that saw a little bit of noise, sort of split each side. Like one side was popular in Pittsburgh and Connecticut and around that area. Those were the days of the regional hits. And the other side was popular in Texas and Louisiana. So, I went, the guy, I had written that side. And the guy at the record company said, that's a pretty good song. You have any more? I played a couple more songs, and he liked two of them and gave me $35 a piece for them, and let us go in and make demonstration records of them. And a couple weeks later, he called me up and he said, hey, I got a record on one of your songs. I said, really? And I figured I'm a nobody, it wasn't going to be anybody's B-side. He said, no, it'll be the A-side, and it'll be Ricky Nelson. So I said, wow, Ricky Nelson. I was kind of surprised because I had written it with this new girl singer in mind, Dionne Warwick. But Ricky cut it, and he did it 5 weeks in a row on the television show, Ozzie and Harriet. And it became a minor hit record. So there I was the first time out. I got lucky.
Could you choose an artist that it has been especially thrilling to have recorded your work?
Well, being a Fats Domino fan as a kid, I was pretty thrilled when he recorded Make Me Belong to You. But by that time, his career was not doing anything, but he made an album called Fats Is Back in the mid-'60s, I guess, or late 60s. It was thrilling to hear him sing my melody and my words. Dolly Parton was a big thrill because I love Dolly, and that was my first #1 song. I really got the feeling. I guess those two were probably the most thrilling.
How did you get interested in the sound that people commonly call big band?
Well, I think that came from those albums that my mom brought home, the Sinatra albums, and I guess Duke Ellington and Count Basie. She took me to see Count Basie one time, and I just wow, I was blown away, by the power of that sound, all those instruments and just everybody just blowing their brains out. It was just an amazing band. And so I've always liked that stuff. My dad talked about big band when he was a kid. That was the music of his childhood. So he was always talking about that, and that kind of got me interested in it too.
And now you're going to have your own big band album. Tell us about this new album of yours.
Well, let's see. I had been procrastinating for years, talking about it, thinking about it, but nobody was interested in letting me record that. They saw me as Billy Vera and the Beaters, and with my 9-piece band doing, our sort of mix of R&B and rock and roll. I happened to be talking about it with this young girl singer I had met named Tamela, and she's one of these people that just is very encouraging, and she just pushed me to do it. As it turned out, Michael Bublé had recorded my song At This Moment on his latest album, and he sells a lot of records, so sold about 7 million records. So I realized my son graduated college, so I don't have that expense. I said to myself, why not take one of the checks from Bublé and self-finance the album myself? So we did. We went into Capitol Studio A. I had connections there because I had produced 4 Lou Rawls albums for that company, and so we went in there and hired 18-piece band and got a great arranger named Chris Walden, young guy from Germany who is really into the Count Basie sound. I picked the songs. I'm a bit of a historian, a music historian, so I had the idea to how can I make this album different than just anybody else's big band album? I came up with the idea. I said, what about making it a tribute to all the great black songwriters of the 20s, 30s, and 40s? So I picked songs like Since I Fell for You and If I Could Be With You, 1 Hour Tonight, and When It's Sleepy Time Down South, and all these great songs that nobody realizes were written by black guys. And it also, another reason I wanted to do it that way was people are always portraying black people as victims. And I said, why not celebrate the successes? Why not celebrate the things that black people did that were successful in songwriting? So, that was another reason that I did that. So we went in and did it, and it was just thrilling to be singing in front of a huge band like that. So all those great musicians. So we did it, and it's done.
I wanted to ask about one of the songs in particular on the album. Tell us about Room with a View.
Well, Room with a View I wrote with the great blues man, Lowell Fulson, legendary blues man from the 40s and 50s. We wrote that quite a few years ago. He passed on now. And the song has become a minor blues standard. Lou Rawls recorded it, and Eric Burden, and Johnny Adams, and a whole bunch of other people you never heard of. I recorded it with the Beaters, and I thought, well, this would have been a great song for Count Basie and Joe Williams, so why not do a big band version of it? So that's how that came about.
Our special guest is Billy Vera. What about the song on there, At This Moment?
Well, we did Tamela. That was her idea. I had a big band chart already on that one from when I was on the Johnny Carson show years ago. At first, the first time we went on there, I did Johnny Carson's Tonight Show 9 times, and the first time they didn't want to pay for all the beaters, so they said you got to perform with Doc Severinsen's band. Well, that's a great band. Who wouldn't want to perform with them? So I had somebody write a chart on At This Moment, which at the time was the #1 record for me in the country. So Tamela said, why don't you put it on there as, even though it doesn't fit the concept of the album, put it on there as a bonus track. In other words, if people buy the album as a download or something like that, then they can get At This Moment as well in a big band version. Our original version is available now already online and on CD.
Is there a song on this album that is a favorite of yours?
Oh boy, that's like which of your children is your favorite. If I am forced into a corner and have to say, I really love When It's Sleepy Time Down South, which was Louis Armstrong's theme song for many, many years. Chris Walden wrote a wonderful arrangement on that. So maybe, I guess that might be my favorite.
When you think back at all of the experiences you've had in the music business, what are you most proud of?
Obviously, I'm proud of having had a couple of number one records at this moment with my band, and also having written a number one song for Dolly Parton. I think in terms of pride, we got to go way back to 1967 and 68. I made a couple of hit records with a female singer named Judy Clay. We had a song called Storybook Children, which was the first hit that I sang on. The follow-up was called Country Girl City Man. And we were the first racially integrated duo to sing love songs, which was a big deal back then. I mean, in fact, it kept us from being seen on television. For one thing, nobody wanted to put us on TV. We got to play at the Apollo Theater a couple of times, and that was a big thrill. And so I guess when you say, what are you proud of, I guess we made a little step in racial integration back then, and that was a good thing.
What is the best thing about being Billy Vera?
What's the best thing about being Billy Vera? I guess the fact that I've survived the music wars and still am able to perform and sing music I love. I'm able to hang in there and do what I love to do. You know, that's a great thing. I never had to take a day job.
My last question is very open-ended. What would you like to say to anyone who is listening in?
Thank you for many years of allowing me to perform and, you know, buying my records and coming to see me sing and tell my little stories and perform for you. And I'm very grateful for the life I've had in show business. So thank you all.
I hope you come through Atlanta at some point.
Well, that would be great. I've always enjoyed the South. You know, I recorded in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, and in Memphis, Tennessee, and we've always had a good following. People in the South have always seemed to like what I do. So I doubly appreciated being on your show in Atlanta.
Thank you so much.